From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
The need for bigger bins.
So we're moving from these small bins that were 8, 10, 20,000 bushels to the ones behind us that are 370,000 bushels.
How grain bin technology is helping protect your investment and keep you safe in our new series, Old Hat, New Hat. John Deere looks to possibly shift some production south of the border as record-breaking severe weather sends some farmers back out in the field to plant again.
Our stand counts are down from the hail damage, and it's going to be necessary.
What farmers are facing right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when the name on the cap matches the power of one's purpose. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. While spring planting is starting to wrap up across the country, replanting is also underway in some key growing areas. Farmers in the central part of the country having to put more seed in the ground after several rounds of rain, hail, even dust. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins me. And Michelle, one state seeing some replanting is Illinois.
Yeah, that's right. It's not only a result of the cool, excessively wet weather conditions in some areas of Illinois this spring, but in addition, some damage due to severe weather. And when you combine the two, there are areas of Illinois that are starting to fall behind last year's record-setting planting pace, when 96% of the corn and 95% of the soybeans were already seeded. Farmers in Illinois have planted 89% of the corn and 81% of the soybean crop. While that's ahead of average, it's well behind last year. Illinois farmer Kurt Jacobs says spring rains have drug out the planting season on his farm.
We've seen rain here anywhere from a couple tenths to over an inch every week since Easter.
At this time last year, Jacobs was done planting and the crop was already emerged. This year he planted beans first, but seeded his last field of corn this week, the day before the last plant date.
Last year we got in good timing, fairly early. Crops are up and looking good this time last year, and we're looking at corn still emerging in this area. So we're behind where we feel we should be.
In addition to dodging rain, Jacobs says they also have seen hail twice at his farm. This cornfield was hit a week ago and soybeans this week.
We're going to be replanting some beans. Our stand counts are down from the hail damage, and it's going to be necessary.
So his yield potential will be lower on both crops.
We'll see some losses in them beans, yeah. And this field, the corn here, I mean, anytime a crop gets damaged by weather or something, it's going to see a yield loss.
And it's been a record-breaking spring for severe weather, with reports of hail at least an inch in diameter above 1,800. The preliminary U.S. tally is 556 tornadoes, which ranks second for May behind 573 in 2003.
Perhaps even more remarkable is that we saw a tornado somewhere in the United States on 29 of the 31 days during the month of May. The only days that were void of tornado activity, May 15th and May 18th.
Rippey says the wind damage tally for May also stands at more than 3,800 reports. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
Heat in the west, rain in the east, and even chances for rain in western Kansas. Meteorologist Martin Lorimore is tracking it all for us. Martin?
Yeah, that's right. It has been very warm across some parts of the country. We're seeing a lot of those areas underneath that heat dome, seeing temperatures very, very warm. I'm talking triple digits across most of the southwest Mojave, and of course those areas in New Mexico that have unfortunately not seen a whole lot of rain in the past several months now. A lot of those areas seeing actually exceptional drought in the southeast part of the country. You can see there just to the north of El Paso, again just to the west of the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas. So it's going to be very dry out there, and unfortunately that heat dome not going anywhere for the next several days. Now it will start fading as we get into our weekend and into our next work week, but we're still going to be sticking around with this heat dome for the next several days. But it will start bringing a little bit of rain across parts of the Great Lakes. This low pressure pushing through right here could bring in some of that rain for our Friday into our Saturday, but that heat dome sticking around for this weekend. Now we'll start giving way a little bit as we get into our late weekend and into the first part of our next work week, which could bring those temperatures down a little bit, but we're still expecting, some right around the corner. So triple digit heat indices not exactly going away anytime soon. Take a look at this right here. This is out of Leesburg, Georgia. I got some pea pods here, and let me just tell you what, Alex Harrell hoping for great things out of his bean crop. And he says this is the first 5-bean pod he's seen of the season. He said this never gets old finding these, and he hopes it's not the only one that he finds this year. More in that forecast coming up.
We're learning more about the devastating impact recent floods had on agriculture in the state of Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil. Officials say the floods caused significant losses in soybean production. Reporting losses could reach between 1 and 2 million metric tons of soybeans. Now, the state crop agency adjusting its forecast for soybean production in Rio Grande do Sul to 19.53 million metric tons. That's down from the previous forecast of 22.24. Rio Grande do Sul was expected to be Brazil's second largest soybean producing state this year after Mato Grosso. Now, it's estimated 30 to 40% of the remaining grains left to be harvested are damaged, and in most affected areas, up to 80% of grains are damaged. Now, the floods also severely impacted the areas where rice harvest is underway, with 84% of the crop harvested before the rains. The floods also severely impacted the area's rice harvest, with 84% of the crops harvested before the rains. President Biden announcing executive action about the U.S.-Mexico border. The new policy uses an authority known as 212F. It was a regulation used under the Trump administration and widely denounced at the time by Democrats. It would restrict migrants from seeking asylum at the U.S. southern border if they crossed unlawfully once daily encounters between ports of entry reached 2,500, meaning that the measure is likely to go into effect quickly. Now, migrants could still request an appointment to present their asylum claim at a port of entry.
This action will help us gain control of our border, restore order into the process.
Unaccompanied children would be exempt, but there are concerns the exemption could encourage some families to send children to the border on their own. Now, Republicans have long pushed for stronger security at the border, and some GOP lawmakers are speaking out against the announcement, saying the president is not serious about securing the border and that the action is due to proximity to the presidential election. There was a lot of red on the board Wednesday, led by wheat markets. We'll dig into the details next. And later, we're off to Indiana, where the grain bins of yesterday are giving way to newer, larger systems, the lessons the industry is learning from that transition in the country. We told you earlier this week about several layoffs at John Deere plants in Iowa. Now it's being reported the company is moving some production from the state to Mexico. 2 Iowa TV stations reporting the company is in the process of buying land in Mexico to build a new production plant. The plan is to move production of mid-frame skid steer loaders and compact loaders from the plant in Dubuque to south of the border. It's not known how many jobs would be impacted. KCCI in Des Moines reporting that Deere says a decision is in response to rising manufacturing costs. And grain storage and handling company AgDay says it's closing down a plant. The company says it is standardizing its North American galvanized steel bends to align with growth and customer demand. And it says due to adapting a 4-inch wide bend wall, it will be forced to close its Grand Island, Nebraska facility. That facility mainly manufactures thinner bend walls. It's reported 100 workers will lose their jobs. AgDay saying its priority right now is to assist employees during the transition process. Corn futures continued to sink midweek, and soybeans saw the same. Michelle Rook is back with an update in Markets Now.
Well, markets were all lower again on Wednesday. Jeff Hogendorn is joining us from Professional Ag Marketing at the World Pork Expo. So let's talk about the pork sector. Another day of new lows for the move on Wednesday in the hog market. And the stagnant cash and cutouts have really continued to plague that market, haven't they, Jeff?
Yeah, usually you come into the Pork Expo and it's really, you're in a time of year where you should be doing a lot of hedging. There's a lot of optimism around the market, and we're just not seeing any of that this year, of course, Michelle. And we've got just a very best way that everybody's describing it down here is really it's an okay market.
Do you anticipate a rebound in cash or cutout values here to help out or not?
It's not what we're hearing, especially down in this part of the world again today. Most sounds like quite a few hogs still around for the month of June. Even hearing a little bit about some Saturday kills starting to take place in June, which is just that's That's crazy talk. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. So the good news is we'll get rid of some pigs, but bad news is I think we have some pigs to get rid of. And product movement there again, it's okay. It's a long ways from great.
So Jeff, when you talk about the futures market, we had hit new contract highs there around April 10th, and it's been, a $60 to $18 loss since that point in time. Do you think that the funds are done liquidating? Are we getting close to support?
Well, I think we definitely are. Maybe not, as much from a little bit from a technical standpoint, but from a fundamental standpoint, we have the summer markets now down right on top of the index. So I look at that and it's like, man, that's all the optimism is out of this market now. And I'm thinking that has to be enough almost. Then the scary part is you mentioned the funds, the index type funds are still pretty long. So maybe they decide they want to exit some of their position. I don't think they will. I think they'll stick around until August, and all the optimism's out. So I would like to think we're low enough here, Michelle.
Thanks so much, Jeff Hogan with Professional Ag Marketing. We'll have more AgDay coming up. Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rook on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.
Yeah, welcome back. It is going to be a warm next couple of days with that heat dome across most of the Southwest, and it's stretching its way into parts of Texas as well. Look at these 90s, really stretching deep into the south. Got Amarillo nearing 100 degrees, Dallas at 99, Brownsville 114 degrees. Yeah, it's going to be very warm across parts of the south where this heat dome is just encompassing itself and really digging in across most of the Southwest. Now, as we get into our overnight temperatures, we'll try to calm down. But look at El Paso, still 79, Phoenix 84 degrees. Yeah, you can't even escape in the overnight, can you? But it's still very warm over the next couple of days. As we get into our afternoon tomorrow, notice the only place really staying cool is this area where this high pressure is pulling in the cooler air from Canada. But you still got these temperatures. They're getting almost ridiculous. We're sitting at 112 in Phoenix. We got 100 in Amarillo, even up toward Denver. 92 degrees, the Mile High City, that the thermometer going a mile high, that's for sure. Now, precipitation will be pretty lackluster over the next 24 hours, kind of seeing only the East Coast seeing most of that rainfall, and even that just about up to a half inch or so. Now, there could be a couple breaks in that high pressure that could give for a little bit of rainfall. Areas in parts of western Kansas where a lot of that winter wheat is being grown, maybe going to start seeing a little bit more of that winter wheat actually getting able to harvested as we get into the next couple of days with that rainfall coming down. So hopefully we see that. Luckily, the severe risk for our next several days staying pretty low. You can thank the high pressure for that. Just a bit of a chance for seeing maybe a shower or two get on the stronger side. You can see out toward the East Coast again where those last couple of showers are moving across. And get on Friday, it's just a very small little area in parts of the Rockies where they are expecting to see maybe a bit of a brief downpour, strong wind, maybe some small hail for that day. But again, you can see the jet stream here. There's that high pressure just sitting there, the heat dome meandering across most of the Rockies and into parts of the central and southern plains. This is going to be staying there for this weekend, but it will start giving way as we get into that Sunday and Monday. So over time, the heat dome will degrade, but it's still trying to rebound itself in our extended forecast. It's just not wanting to go anywhere. So expect that warm weather to be sticking around as we head into the next several days, and even the low pressure kind of fading away into our next work week. Vernon, Texas. Oh, it's going to be a scorcher. 100 degrees, sunny skies. Johnson, Wyoming, a little cooler, still pretty toasty, high 88. Finally, Panama, Oklahoma, sunny, high 93.
A Texas-sized dust-up over captive deer. We'll have details next. And later, we're going big, the growing size of on-farm storage and what it means for farmers in the country. Texas wildlife officials killed 249 captive deer on a private ranch last week due to a so-called zombie deer disease. Now, it ends a long-running battle between the rancher and the state over its policy regarding deer herds infected with chronic wasting disease. The deer were killed at RW Trophy Ranch. It's a 1,500-acre business near Terrell, Texas. In 2021, one of the deer on the ranch tested positive for CWD, and the owner reported it. By 2022, 8 deer on the property tested positive. The state ordered all deer on that land to be killed. The ranch owner objected and sued in January of 2022. The case eventually reaching the Texas Supreme Court, which ruled in favor of the state. By then, it's reported there were 208 positive cases on the ranch. Amazon's founder is getting into the meat business, but the plant and cell-based versions. Drover's reporting Jeff Bezos is establishing a multi-million-dollar research facility at North Carolina State University. According to a release, the Bezos Earth Fund awarded the university $30 million over 5 years to create the Bezos Center for Sustainable Protein. The center will become a, quote, biomanufacturing hub for dietary proteins that are environmentally friendly, healthy, accessible, and affordable, end quote. NC State said the center will include several partners from academia and industry, as well as chefs and policymakers, to research, create, and commercialize new technologies for manufacturing various protein products. And Wisconsin-based meat processor Strauss says it's relocating its grass-fed beef product line, moving it from Franklin, Wisconsin to Mundelein, Illinois, into an existing facility with a division of Kilcoy Global Foods. It comes after Strauss sold off its veal and lamb product lines last year. Now, it's reported 70 people in Wisconsin will be laid off due to the closure. Strauss says it's fully committed to supporting and assisting all affected employees. The company has been in business for more than 80 years. There are a lot of lessons we can learn from the past, even as the industry moves to modernize. We'll look at what it means for grain bins and on-farm storage next in the country.
Old Hat, New Hat is brought to you exclusively by AGI. Grain handling, grain storage, grain leadership. AGI brings it all to your farm. Learn more today at aggrowth.com.
The grain storage we find on farms today is nothing like the systems we saw 40 years ago. But sometimes those old hats can teach us new lessons. Today, we begin a new series, Old Hat, New Hat, with a focus on learning from the past and embracing the technology of tomorrow. Travel the countryside and you'll see them, the older, smaller bends of yesteryear, and nearby, the giants of today. There's a big difference in this short one that's right here versus that one.
But that's what they used to use.
Right.
And it was enough.
Purdue Extension Safety Specialist Bill Field has been studying the on-farm bin industry for decades. And he says as farms consolidate, add acres, and harvest more bushels, the economics of storage have proven beneficial.
So we're moving from these small bins that were 8, 10, 20,000 bushels to the ones behind us that are 370,000 bushels.
At that size, and with so much money at stake, grain management is key.
For example, in a small bin, if something goes wrong, you're only dealing with, let's say, 20,000 bushels a bin. You have something go wrong seriously in a 250,000 bushel bin, it's going to be a mess.
Do you feel like we've got technology today that can help us?
We sure have a lot of good technology today. We got thermocouples that are hung in the bins to monitor temperature. We've got carbon dioxide monitors that tell you when the grain is deteriorating. We got cameras that we can put in bins to just look at what's going on. And so, and all of this can be linked to your phone. I remember being in church and a farmer sitting next to me, his phone went off, and he looked at it and he says, "I got a hot bin." And he gets up and leaves. I mean, this is something that I didn't see when I started out in this business. This is from a bin, and this is corn, and this is what happens when it gets wet and it just deteriorates. And these chunks, they're not real heavy.
No, they're pretty light.
But they cover they cover over the well or the opening in the base of the bin. It just plugs it.
Field says grain quality, not bin size, is often the leading cause of entrapment-related injuries or death.
And I've been involved in analyzing probably close to 1,500 cases involving grain bin entrapment. The number one correlating factor is that grain quality issue. and then followed up by them going in alone. I think we're at a facility here where the owner would tell me their goal is never to go in that bin. Never. If they have to go in the bin, they already know they got a problem.
As technology improves, Field hopes fewer farmers feel the need to ever set foot inside.
That's what we used to see everywhere, right?
Oh yeah, that's the way business was done. And so now people like Fred and Jeff they've bought a local elevator,
right.
A co-op.
From the bins of yesterday to the giants of tomorrow, on-farm storage is changing the way the industry handles its most valuable resources, its grain and its people. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clint Griffiths. Have a great day.